September 13th, 1943. Salerno, Italy. Two men are 6 kilometers behind German lines in total darkness. One is corporal. The other is a British officer who has just drawn his weapon, not a pistol, not a grenade, a 3-foot Scottish broadsword. He walks toward a German sentry with it. Within 5 hours, he and that corporal will march 42 armed enemy soldiers out of the dark more prisoners than the entire 46th Infantry Division took in 5 consecutive days of fighting. But here's what makes this insane. Not a single shot was fired. No backup, no radio, no orders. Just a sword and a psychological exploit so precise that 42 soldiers, each armed, each able to shoot, handed themselves over without pulling a trigger. But that's not even the strangest part. This same man had done it before, with a longbow in 1940, then with bagpipes on the bow of a landing craft under live artillery fire. Each time the weapon changed. Each time the Germans froze. Each time history had no category for what it was recording. How did one soldier turn human psychology into a weapon? And what finally made German soldiers fear him? May 27, 1940, northern France. The British Expeditionary Force is collapsing. 300,000 men are walking backward through Picardy toward a beach called Dunkirk. Whole battalions are dissolving. Officers are burning maps. In this wreck of an army, Captain John Malcolm Thorpe Fleming Churchill walks south carrying 3 items that appear on no supply manifest and in no field manual. A 6-foot English longbow, a Scottish basket-hilted broadsword, a set of Highland bagpipes. His men call him Mad Jack. He is 33 years old, and he has spent the last decade convinced he was born in the wrong century. The bow is not a theater. Churchill represented Great Britain at the 1939 World Archery Championships in Oslo. He can put an arrow through a target at 200 yards. The bow is silent. It needs no powder. In a retreat where ammunition is rationed by the bullet, he has done the arithmetic and arrived at a conclusion no one can argue with. He has not asked permission. Near the village of Lepanette, the column halts. A German patrol moves along the tree line, 5 soldiers, 30 yards out, closing. Churchill rises from the cover. He knocks an arrow. He draws to his ear. He is released. The arrow takes the German sergeant in the chest, just below the left collar. The man drops without a sound. The other 4 froze. They are looking at a body with the wrong kind of wound, not a bullet hole, not shrapnel, an arrow. In 1940, and in those 2 or 3 seconds of staring, of trying to locate a category for what they're seeing, Churchill's machine gunners open fire from the flank. The patrol is destroyed. Mad Jack has just become the last man in the recorded history of warfare to kill an enemy soldier with a longbow. No one will ever do it again. He is shot in the shoulder in the next exchange. He bandages it himself and leads the survivors 30 miles east through German-occupied countryside at night, on foot, until they find a boat at La Panne. He earns a military cross, but the more consequential result is this. Word spreads through the collapsing British army faster than the official dispatches. There is an officer who fights with a bow and a sword. He is alive. Soldiers start requesting by name to serve under him. In the summer of 1940, a new kind of unit is formed, volunteer only, trained to land on hostile shores and disappeared into them. They will be called commandos. Churchill reads the formation order from a hospital bed and volunteers before the ink is dry. He has spent his career fighting an army that wanted to make him ordinary. The commandos are built on the premise that ordinary men are not what this war needs. Over the following months, he drills volunteers in the kind of warfare no manual describes: night movement, improvised entry, fighting without fixed supply lines. He is building the century he was born for, one exercise at a time. His men learn quickly that the bagpipes are not ceremonial. When Mad Jack plays, something is about to happen. The only question, every time, is to whom. The arrow worked on a patrol of 5 men at 30 yards. But could the same mechanism, the same half-second freeze in the enemy's brain, survive contact with an entire fortified garrison that was already shooting at him before he even reached the shore? December 27, 1941. Vågsøy Island, Norway. 40 miles south of the Arctic Circle, in water that kills a man in 9 minutes, 3 wooden landing craft push toward a German coastal garrison. Churchill stands at the bow of the lead boat. Officers do not stand on the bow. The bow is the single most lethal position on a landing craft, because every gun on the shore is aimed at the spot where the ramp will drop. Churchill is not crouching. He is upright in a kilt over his battle dress, facing the beach, holding bagpipes. Coastal artillery opens at 400 yards. Geysers rise around the boat. Tracer rounds come in flat and burn. A shell hits the water 6 feet off the port side, and the concussion blows splinters across the deck. The man beside Churchill catches one in the arm and goes down. Churchill does not move. He puts the chanter to his lips and plays March of the Cameron Men. Every bar. The boat takes more hits. Men press against the hull behind him and pray. The pipes do not stop. When the ramp drops, Churchill lays the bagpipes down with the care of a man setting down something valuable. He draws the sword. He raises it over his head and runs screaming across 40 yards of stone beach into the seawall. The commandos screamed behind him. They take the seawall. They take the first house. They take the second. Within 2 hours, the Malloy battery is in British hands. 250 German soldiers are dead or captured. A naval codebook is recovered that helps break the cipher used to direct U-boats in the Atlantic. After the war, a Scottish piper named Bill Millen, who played his pipes on Sword Beach at Normandy for 30 minutes during the D-Day landings, tracked down German veterans who had been in the dunes. He asked why they didn't shoot. They told him they thought he was obviously insane. They did not fire at insane men. Churchill at Vogsoy was working on the same mechanism. The gunners on the seawall had been drilled exhaustively on landing craft, mortar fire, grenades, flamethrowers, not on a man in a kilt playing bagpipes while their artillery shot at him. So they looked. 2 seconds, 3, 4, and in those seconds, the ramp dropped, and Churchill was already at the wall, and whatever protocol they were reaching for was useless. This is not bravery as a performance. The half second between perceiving something incomprehensible and deciding how to respond is a structural gap in every human brain trained to follow patterns. Churchill has not stumbled onto this. He has derived it, proved it on a French patrol, and now at full scale on a Norwegian beach. He is promoted to commanding officer of No. 2 Commando and sent to Italy, where the Allies have landed at Salerno and the Germans are dug into the hills above the beachhead. Someone has to take the observation post controlling the pass at Pigoletti before it calls artillery down on everyone below. The method worked on a beach with 100 men screaming behind him. But could one man, alone in total darkness with a single corporal and no backup whatsoever, use the same principle to walk 42 armed soldiers out of the dark without firing a single shot? Google your full name, your city, your state, your address, phone number, relatives, email, sitting on dozens of sites you've never visited, sold by companies called data brokers. You never heard of them. You never agreed to any of it. That's where Incogni comes in. They send legal removal requests to hundreds of data brokers on your behalf, automatically, repeatedly, because the data crawls back. With the unlimited plan, you also get custom removals. Send them a link to any site exposing your data, and a privacy expert takes it down. Incogni is the first removal service independently verified by Deloitte, with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Take your personal data back with Incogni. Use code Breakfiles at the link below and get 60% off an annual plan. September 13th, 1943. Pass above Pigoletti. This is where we came in, but now the mechanism is fully visible. Churchill's commandos advance in 6 columns through terrain so dense the moon does not reach the ground. Stone walls, cane brakes, olive groves with trunks the width of a man. The danger in this darkness is not only the enemy, it is each other. 6 armed columns, no moonlight, no radio, a British column firing on a British column ends the operation in minutes. Churchill's solution is something he invented on the march. Every 5 minutes, every column, all 6 simultaneously, shouts one word at full volume. You hear it from the left, you hear it from the right, from above, from behind, from the valley floor. You shout it back and keep walking. Inside the German positions, surrounded by this in the dark, The effect is something no Wehrmacht manual addresses. The British are everywhere, coming from every direction, screaming their own name. A soldier at a forward listening post can no longer count enemies. He can only count voices, and the voices are multiplying. Churchill peels away from the main column with Corporal Ruffle. They are looking for the German observation post controlling the pass. They are now 2 men, alone, inside a valley of enemies who believe they are surrounded. They hear digging mortar pits being seeded on the earth. Then, in the trees ahead, the orange glow of a cigarette. Churchill does not creep. Creeping is something the German army has a protocol for. Churchill walks at full height, holding the sword two-handed across his chest, with the bearing of a man who has somewhere to be. He arrives at the foxhole before the sentry has processed the sound of footsteps. The sword is at the man's throat. Ruffle binds his hands. The prisoner makes no sound. His brain is doing what every German brain will do that night, searching for a category for what is in front of him and finding nothing in the index. Churchill uses the first guard as a human shield. He walks the man between sentry posts at full height, sword out, in the uniform and bearing of an officer who has every right to give orders at this hour. At each post, he speaks. Not a whisper, a command, loud and direct. The tone of authority in the dark, with a prisoner already in hand and 40 British voices howling commando from the ridgelines above. A German conscript at a listening post in southern Italy in 1943 has training responses for enemy assaults, artillery, and infiltrators at a crouch. Not for an officer walking calmly into his position at 4 a.m. with a prisoner and a sword. The brain files it as authority, as advance, as comply. Churchill explained the rule himself years later. As long as you tell a German loudly and clearly what to do, if you are senior to him, he will say "Jawohl" and get on with it. Foxhole by foxhole. For 2 hours, he walks German soldiers out of the earth. Some surrender to the sword. Most surrender to the voice. None of them fire. By 4:30 in the morning, Churchill and one corporal have 42 prisoners. He strips the rifle bolts before letting them carry their own weapons, drops them in his pocket, so each rifle becomes 4 kilograms of dead wood. The wounded go into wheelbarrows the Germans had brought up for ammunition. Churchill has the prisoners push the wheelbarrows. When this column walks back through British lines at first light, a British officer, a corporal, 42 disarmed Germans in marching order, their own wounded being pushed by other prisoners, it is the most improbable sight the Salerno beachhead will produce. Then Churchill realizes he no longer has his sword, lost during a brief struggle with a German soldier who swung a rifle butt at him. He hands the prisoners over, turns, and walks back alone into enemy positions. He recovers the sword. On the way out, he encounters a lost American patrol heading directly into the German line. He warns them. They argue. He tells them he has no interest in going back a third time and walks away. The 46th Infantry Division has taken 37 prisoners in 5 consecutive days of conventional fighting on the same front. 2 men have taken 42 in 5 hours. He earns the Distinguished Service Order. The method is now proved across 3 years and 3 operations in retreat, in assault, in total darkness behind enemy lines. The planners give him his largest problem yet, a mixed force, 1,500 men, British commandos and Yugoslav partisans, against a fortified German island in the Adriatic. The sword worked on patrols. The sword worked on a garrison. The sword worked on 42 men in the dark. But what happens the day the method meets for the very first time? An enemy that does not need to look at him to kill him? May 1944, Brach, a limestone island in the Dalmatian chain held by the 118th Jaeger Division. 3 concentric rings of trench, machine guns paired and sighted for overlapping fire. Mortar positions dug in and registered behind the second ring. Churchill plans a pre-dawn assault on the hilltop blockhouse. The Yugoslav partisans of the 26th Dalmatian Division have fought the 118th before. They look at the slope and tell Churchill they need another day to prepare. Churchill picks up the bagpipes and plays "Will Ye No Come Back Again," a Scottish lament about a farewell that may be permanent, standing on a rock in clear view of the German positions. His commandos hear the pipes and begin to advance. The partisans, watching the British move without them, do not follow. 43 commandos go up the hill in the dark. Churchill climbs with them. He watches the men around him go down as they climb a burst from a machine gun, a mortar registered on the approach, a man dropping and not rising. 37 men fall on the slope. The wire appears 30 yards from the trench, and there are 6 men standing. A single 80mm mortar shell falls into the group at the wire. The fragmentation pattern does not calculate. It does not register that the man at the center has, for 4 years, done things no one ever thought to write a protocol for. The 5 men on either side of Churchill go down. He is untouched. He is alone. No ammunition. Germans moving toward the wire from above. This is the structural limit. Churchill has spent 4 years fighting enemies who had to look at him before they could respond. The longbow required a rifleman to see a man with a bow. The bagpipes required a gunner to see a figure on the bow. The sword and voice required a sentry to process the officer in front of him. The entire method runs one prerequisite: perception first, then response, and in the gap between those 2 moments, Churchill wins. A mortar crew sets an angle. They set a charge. The shell falls where mathematics says. There is no perception of events, no gap, no brain looking at him and hesitating. For the first time in this war, he has met a weapon that does not require a brain on the other end. He sits down on a stone. He takes out the bagpipes. He plays Will Ye No Come Back Again, all the way through, a second time, as the Germans approach, and there is nothing left to do. A grenade detonates nearby. He goes down. When he wakes up, his sword is gone, taken by a German lieutenant as a souvenir, and his pipes are gone. And he is being loaded onto transport to Berlin under armed guard. The Sicherheitsdienst interrogates him twice. They check his paybook against a list. They believe incorrectly that he is related to the Prime Minister. Mad Jack does not correct them. He is transferred to Sachsenhausen concentration camp, north of Oranienburg. The SS classification is Sonderhäftling Special Prisoner. Political value to be held, to be liquidated when the value expires. He is chained by one ankle to the floor of a concrete cell. No sword, no pipes, no unit behind him, for the first time in 6 years. The sword is gone. The pipes are gone. The man who could not be stopped by machine guns has been stopped by concrete and a chain. So what does audacity look like when the only way out of a Nazi concentration camp is a storm drain 60 centimeters wide? September 1944. The drain runs under the inner wall of Sachsenhausen, then under the outer wall, and surfaces in a culvert beyond the fence, built for stormwater, not inspected in months, 60 centimeters across. Churchill maps it over 3 weeks by studying the angle of light on the parade ground after rain and the rotation timing of the guards. He picks one accomplice, an RAF officer named Bertram James, the most escape-tested British prisoner alive. Across 14 nights they saw through the window bar with a piece of metal sharpened on the cell floor. On the 15th night they drop into the yard and crawl on their elbows, the full length of the drain in cold water and concrete dust, in 60 centimeters of pipe, in total darkness. Churchill is 6 feet tall. Above the culvert exit, near the outer fence, a guard's footsteps cross the grate. The 2 men stop. A torch of beam sweeps. Churchill is face down in 3 inches of cold water, not breathing. The beam moves away. The footsteps continue. They wait 4 minutes and crawl out into the dark beyond the wire. They walk north, by night, through farmland and village edges, sleeping in woods through the daylight hours, eating raw beets from field margins and roots pulled from the ground. They cross 3 rivers, 125 miles in 8 days. Near Rostock, approaching a railway yard, a guard steps out of a doorway and challenges them. Churchill walks directly at the man, answering in the tone of an officer who has every right to be at a railway yard at this hour, the same tone that walked 42 prisoners out of a valley in southern Italy. The guard raises his weapon. More guards come. They are recaptured. Churchill is transported back, bound. The Gestapo expects to find a man who is broken. He is not broken. He is angry the route did not work. He is transferred to a punishment compound at Niederdorf in Tyrol, with 138 other special prisoners, all under SS guard, with standing orders to liquidate the compound when Allied forces approach. In April 1945, those orders are activated. A delegation of prisoners walks to a Wehrmacht captain named Richard von Alvensleben, commanding a regular army company nearby, and shows him the order. Alvensleben reads it. He is a professional soldier in an army that has treated written orders as absolute law for 12 years. He does the calculation an officer is not supposed to make. He marches his company up the road, places his men between the prisoners and the SS detail, and puts the refusal in writing. The SS leaves before dawn. Churchill does not wait for liberation. He walks south, through the Brenner Pass into the Alps, 150 kilometers alone in stolen civilian clothes, no map, eating what he can find, moving toward Italy because Italy is where the Americans are. He walks until, near Verona, he walks into an armored column whose commander has not yet received word about the camp in Tyrol. Churchill's war ends not at a ceremony. It ends on a dusty road in civilian clothes, shaking the hand of a confused American officer who has no idea where this man came from. He is posted to Burma to fight the Japanese. His transport is still at sea when the atomic bombs drop. His response, recorded in 3 separate diaries by officers present in a Rangoon wardroom. If it wasn't for those damn Yanks, we could have kept the war going another 10 years. Not a joke. A diagnosis. A man telling you exactly what the war had been, not a thing to survive, but the only environment where his form of mind had unlimited room to operate. In 1972, Churchill writes a letter. The recipient is Richard von Alvensleben, the captain who put his company between the prisoners and the SS. After the war, Yugoslavia tries Alvensleben as a war criminal. Churchill's letter, presented to the tribunal, describes precisely what the man did and what it cost him. The letter saves him. The first weapon Churchill used in this war was a wooden arrow in a French wheat field in 1940. The last was a piece of paper in a Yugoslav courtroom in 1972. Both worked identically. Both were so far outside what the opponent expected that the brain encountering them stopped, recalculated, and gave ground. The rifleman at Lepinette had no protocol for a man with a longbow. The tribunal had no protocol for a British officer voluntarily testifying to save a German officer who had refused an order 27 years earlier. Mad Jack Churchill died in 1996. The sword is in a German collection somewhere. The bow rotted out decades ago. The pipes are lost. What remains is the mechanism, the recognition that the most dangerous weapon in any fight is the one the enemy has no protocol for. The method failed not because Churchill did something wrong, but because a mortar crew engineered out the one thing the method requires. A brain on the other end, seeing him, processing him, hesitating. That single failure, one honest exception out of 6 years, is what makes everything else credible. It shows the method was never luck. It was real, it was repeatable, and it failed only when its single prerequisite was removed entirely. If that kind of mind interests you, the kind that looks at an impossible problem and builds the solution alone, in secret, with whatever is left after everything else has been taken, there is one more story you need to watch. In 1968, an East German engineer named Bernd Böttger built a torpedo-shaped submarine in a locked garage for $50, never tested it once, and rode it blind under the Baltic Sea for 5 hours through freezing water and patrol boat searchlights to reach freedom. The Stasi had already caught him once. They confiscated everything. They returned one item by mistake. That mistake was all he needed. That story is here,